Hi, welcome. Come on in. I'm Moonlight Mason, and I am reading The History of My Insanity by Trisha Paytas, and we are on chapter 6. Now, if you're new to my channel and you want to catch up, these chapters are only a few pages, and so I'm just reading one chapter per video, and I have a playlist where you can go and catch up fairly quickly on chapters 1 through 5. And if you've been here before, you know how much you mean to me and how much I absolutely love you. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of chapter number 6, The Stripper Diaries, which is the next book that I'll be reading on here by Trisha Paytas, is The Stripper Diaries. Okay, so that is exactly the title of her second book. Anyways, let's get started. I didn't know what to do, so I went on MySpace looking for answers. I sent out a bulletin asking people how to find jobs, and I got a reply from Alice Cooper. Yes, the Alice Cooper. His profile had over 1 million friends, so I was shocked to see it in my inbox. I must have clicked on the inbox picture a dozen times to verify it was coming from that account before I read it. I opened it while holding my breath. It was from his personal assistant, Brian. Brian said he had seen my picture as he was accepting friend requests, and he thought I was gorgeous. I was flattered, and we began talking. As I felt comfortable talking with him, I asked him if he knew of anyone hiring. He said he didn't, but suggested I take up stripping. He told me I was hot enough, which I would have never believed of myself at the time. So I asked him how. He told me he knew the owner of this particular club in Hollywood and that he'd get me an audition. I went in at the time he said to and met with the owner. The owner was foreign. He looked at my ID and then opened up my shirt and grabbed my boobs. He told me I was okay and that I could start right away. I was intimidated by all the girls dancing. I saw the lap dance room right in the open, and I saw a beautiful, tall, thin, gorgeous girl with big hair and bigger boobs on stage, flipping and dipping, and I was scared. I'd only had sex for the first time months prior, and I had never worn a bikini ever in my life. Now, if you remember when I read in last chapter, right, where she had sex, and then she said after she had lost her virginity to that random guy, that's exactly what she said. You know, she went crazy and she just started having sex with everybody. Remember, she said that? Okay, so here we are on this chapter where she just said, I'd only had sex for the first time months prior, and I had never worn a bikini ever in my life. Now, you know that Trisha's what, 20 now, something like that? She's like 20, right? I didn't have any stripper outfits with me, but the DJ suggested I just go out in what I came in with, which was lingerie under a jean jacket. Going on stage that night, I was nervous, but I knew I just had to do it. Just do it and get it over with. And I was over it almost immediately. Once I was out on stage, bare-ass naked, I thought, well, you did it, Trish. The hard part is over. I got guys coming to the stage, and of course, girls were laughing at me, but I was getting money. I was terrible at going up to guys to ask them for dances. Nobody ever told me strange strategies or what to say. I would talk to a guy for an hour and then chicken out and just leave. I always wanted guys to ask me for a private dance, but that's not how they operate. As soon as I would get up, a girl would come by, chat with the same guy for about 10 minutes, and get a private dance. I could never figure it out, and therefore I wasn't making nearly as much money as I could have been. So basically, I was living off of tips from the stage as my main source of income. I started selling clothes on eBay as well, and then I finally got a slew of part-time jobs on the boulevard that I just couldn't stand due to dullness. I ended up quitting every job I had within a couple of weeks. I would dance every night, but would only come home with about 50 bucks. My neighbor was the guy who dresses up as Superman on Hollywood Boulevard. We started talking, and he convinced me to try going out with him on the boulevard dressed up as Supergirl to make extra cash. I didn't want to at first, but he said Jimmy Kimmel Live came out all the time and used him for TV sketches and paid union rates. So I went out, and I actually got to be on one episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live, and it was all worth it. I was racking up the TV credits. I felt good. I was exhausted from dancing 5 hours a night and standing on the boulevard for 8 hours a day, every day. But you always hear, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. And in the heck of a lot better than going to school or living with my mom and dad and his wife. Brian finally asked me out on a date one night, and I agreed. Nobody had taken me out on a date. He was my first. I was almost 19, and I was going on my first date. So she was 18, okay? The guys I was having sex with never took me out. Just invited me over to their house to hang out around midnight on occasion. I didn't even know what Brian looked like. All I knew was he had been Alice Cooper's personal assistant for like 20 years. To this day, Brian was my favorite first date. He picked me up, brought me flowers, and had little bags full of gifts for me to open at dinner. He took me to the Grove, but it was too crowded, so we ended up eating at a place called Hamburger Hamlet in the Valley. It was awkward to be out with him. He was in his late 40s, but looked a lot older, slightly balding, bleached hair, and not a handsome face, but I did find him endearing. Wow. So she's 18, okay? And this guy is in his 40s. It doesn't really matter. Well, it does, according to her, doesn't it? Right now, that really matters, right, to her, because that's what she's fighting against. But here the part that gets to me is she says that he looks a lot older, slightly balding, bleached hair, and not a handsome face. Oh my gosh. I just don't know why. Anyways, I'll tell you why. Desperation, that's why. I found Brian fascinating because of all he had done in his life, how he had gotten the job with Alice Cooper and all the other Hollywood opportunities he had experienced. I've always had an attraction for older guys. Daddy issues? Perhaps, but I never dated, nor have I slept with a guy under 30 years of age. Heck, I've only slept with one guy in his 30s. Everyone else was older. I always say you have to be over 40 to ride this ride. Okay, like I need to be any more perverted. You get it. Nevertheless, I liked Brian as a friend, but I wasn't sexually attracted to him. Besides, he went to strip clubs, and that was just a turnoff to me. I did go back to his apartment out of politeness, Being overly polite is a bad habit of mine. I can't say no to people. So, you know, anything goes is what she's saying, because she's just nice. We picked up ice cream and went back to his place. We ate on his couch, and out of nowhere, he looked at the clock and said, "It's midnight. Now I'm going to kiss you." And he did. He kissed me with a scoop of mint chocolate chip in his mouth and transferred it to mine. It was cold and unromantic, but I did give him a good minute of make-out time. He tried to go further, but I told him I was celibate, which was a lie. Returning theme, English majors. What? Which was a lie. Recurring theme, English majors. You know, I don't know, you guys. I'm just reading what I'm writing, so, you know, don't ask me. He stopped and he said he understood and then drove me home. I didn't think I'd hear from him again, and I was okay with that. Ladies, a word of caution. Now she's giving ladies caution. So ladies, a word of caution from Trisha Paytas now. If you're meeting someone off the internet, in person, make sure you see a picture of him first. Don't let him pick you up at home and meet in public. Okay. You know, I have a, just by the way, I have a video about internet dating. And I go through this. Anyways, I was lucky. Brian was not a stalker, but not so lucky with others. This would be foreshadowing, so highlight that for your thesis. Okay? Brian actually did call me the next day, to my surprise, and he actually asked me out on a second date. There was a new concept for me. Don't have sex right away, and they may actually want to get to know you. What a novel idea. He wanted to go out that night, but I had to work at the club, and that was the truth. He showed up that night at the club and was my first lap dance customer. The owner was shocked, as were the girls. I never got dances, especially not within a minute of saying hello. This gesture was actually so sweet of Brian. I knew many of you may be like, Trish, this was just so that he could get your way with you, naked. But he had just known about my struggles with stripping and how it didn't come easy to me. He was very sweet and respectful and kept his hands at his sides. As soon as he left, the owner fired me. I was confused. I had just gotten a dance. That's the problem, he said. You've only gotten one dance the month you've worked here, and it was from your boyfriend. So get your stuff and leave. The one income I really needed just to make ends meet, and I was fired. I called Brian to pick me up, but he didn't answer. A customer from the club followed me outside and heard my phone conversation, and he offered to give me a ride home. I didn't think anything of it, except that I needed a ride, and it felt safer than the bus, so I accepted. Side note, I smashed my little beetle bug my third day living in LA by hitting a parked car in my complex's parking lot. It was a hit and run by me, but it wasn't hard to track me down. My locks never worked, and my car never ran so well after that, so I used it sparingly. Here is the part where I'm swallowing spit and rubbing my eyes and wondering if I need to put this in this book. I like to sugarcoat things, but I want to let these feelings, emotions, and experiences out so I don't have to hold them in anymore. So I'm just going to do this and say this in hopes that I can genuinely help even just one person not go through this. Okay, you guys, come on now. Don't just don't be getting into strangers' cars. It's just simple. Oh boy. This guy drove me past my house and up, looking over LA. I was a little scared because this was not wanted, nor was it offered. He told me I was scared and to relax and that he was going to take me home. It was a Lifetime movie come to life. I watched way too many Hollywood stories about aspiring actresses being murdered because they were floozies or what have you. I really thought this was my punishment for stripping. I remember praying to God that I'd stay alive and that if I didn't, to forgive me for all of my sins. As my eyes closed, I felt a hand go up my skirt, and I heard his seat belt come off and his zipper go down. A car went by and he stopped for a minute and then climbed over the console and on top of me. I didn't cry. I simply asked if he wouldn't. He wasn't violent and he didn't hit me, but he did tell me to stop talking. I was so fearful he was going to kill me that I stopped talking. As soon as he started having sex with me, I kept saying no. He put his hand over my mouth and I blacked out. Okay, come on now. You're not going to black out. That's an exaggeration. Why would you black out, Trisha? There's no point here for you to black out. Okay, I didn't pass out. I blacked out. I didn't pass out. I blacked out. I don't know. What's the difference between passing out and blacking out? Maybe she means that she didn't, she wasn't dizzy and fell down. I don't know what she meant, that she didn't pass out, she blacked out. I'm not sure of anything that happened next. All I remember is a car pulled up right behind us and turned off its lights, and the guy who was on top of me quickly got off me, started the car, and sped off. I don't know who was in the car or if he knew. I just thought the worst, and it made me paranoid of being in parked cars ever since. I will not sit in a parked car for longer than 5 minutes without freaking out. He did drive me home and he asked me if I enjoyed it, and I said yes at that point, just to get him away from me. I never saw him again, but I felt so violated. I was shaking for days after. I never told this story until now. I've hinted to my mom that I've been raped, but never come out with details. It's not as horrifying writing it out, but it makes me shake. My heartbeat is going faster, and I'm looking around my apartment to make sure the doors are locked. I was pretty numb after this, and I told Brian I was fired, and that's all that I told him. He told me there were plenty of other strip clubs, and he was right. I started at another one down the street shortly afterwards. Something changed in me the night that I was violated. I was numb to men. I wasn't intimidated by them anymore. I started going up to guys and playing on their emotions like I used to do with my parents. I would find something to make them feel guilty and tell them lies. I used to say I had children at home. I told them I was a virgin. I said I had a boyfriend who beat me. Pretty sure these guys felt sorry for me and couldn't say no to dances from me. I was only getting to work one night a week at this club because all the girls who wanted to work, so I started working at a second club in Van Nuys. This was a ghetto club, all ethnic girls. I was the only white girl there. I was always dressed in baggy and ugly clothes so they wouldn't steal anything from me. I never drove my car because I wanted them to think I had nothing like them, so they wouldn't feel intimidated by me. I knew they were tough. Wow, Trisha. I don't think you had anything back then either, though, so I don't know where all this, almighty thinking comes in, but it's interesting, right? Dances at this club were easy as standing in view of a guy, and he'd come up and take me by the waist to go pay for me in the private VIP area. These guys weren't like the guys on Hollywood clubs. These were your illegal construction workers who didn't know any English. The way this just really bothers me, but I'm not going to comment, but wow, it's just too much. These guys weren't like any of the guys at the Hollywood clubs. These were illegal construction workers who didn't know any English, spending their entire paychecks on you and trying to cop feels whenever they could. Giving a lap dance to these guys was like being in a wrestling match. You had to keep pulling away and hitting their arms away from you. Guys would stick their nasty ass fingers in places that made me cry. I hated myself after working these shifts, but it was easy money, and pretty soon I just didn't care anymore. I drank in the back and blacked out during the dances. You know, I think that Trisha's use of being blacked out during the dances, it's blacking out, and you know, blacking out isn't a choice. It's not something that you choose to do, right? So she makes it sound here like blacking out is a choice. I drank in the back and blacked out during dances. I couldn't take it day after day. I never took drugs, never wanted to. I had such an addictive personality. I'm scared I'd get addicted and couldn't stop. I can't stop searching for love, can't stop eating, can't stop shopping, and for a while, I couldn't stop having sex, and she's 18. I just knew I needed more days at the Hollywood club. I couldn't get more days, but a girl who went by the name of Exotica took a liking to me. She mentioned she had a side business where she hired girls to go to guys' houses for private dances, and they made 3 times what we'd make at the club. Well, it sounded enticing. She told me it wasn't dancing we'd be doing, and I immediately got scared and backed out. I may be a dancer, but I'm not a prostitute. I said no thank you, went home, and cried. I got on my knees and prayed day in and day out while working at the clubs on the boulevard. I prayed to find another acting job. I even went to church again. My dad took us every Sunday, but my mom never got into the habit. Not 2 hours after morning mass, I got a call from the producer I worked with at the Greg Bernhardt show. Trish, I'm working on a new show and I want you on it. It'll air on Sci-Fi and it's with Stan Lee. Are you interested? I didn't know who Stan Lee was at the time, but you bet your bottom dollar I researched him and pretended to know. The producer got me a fast pass to audition, meaning I auditioned straight for the producers. The producers helped me create a superhero for the show Who Wants to Be a Superhero, season 2. And we came up with a great character who got her powers from movies and television. Her name was Epic. Epic had white hair like Storm from X-Men with a hot little black ice skating outfit that I used as stripper wear. I took my stripper boots and strutted my little plump thighs in front of Stan Lee at the callbacks. I improved the whole audition, turned up the bubbly, dialed up the dumb, and like magic, I was cast on the show 1 week later. I quit all my strip clubs and I said, never again. Trish will never be a stripper again. I packed my bags and moved into the superhero house and the reality TV world. I think I had more comments on this one than in any other chapter in between. But yeah, so that's the Stripper Diaries. And woo, very interesting because there's just continues to contradict a lot of what she has said and done just recently. And, you know, this is important because when she wrote this, what was it, 2012, I had said? 2013 is when this book was published. So just to, you know, get a perspective of Trisha's mindset of what she said when she wrote The History of My Insanity. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave your comments down below. I will get to you. I'm just very busy with all that I do. And I will see you in chapter 7. Yeah? Chapter 7, which is called Reality TV Star. See you then. Bye.